Okay, good evening. So last session we learnt about how do we deal with looping statements. So we learnt about how do we work with looping control statements. In looping control statements, so how to use the for loops? How do we work with the for? One small example I showed you, and another important, after understanding how do we use the for loop, now another looping control statement we have. Yeah. So another looping control statement we have while. While is same. Actually, while, what is the purpose of while loop? While is nothing but, so the while loop. So it is used. Yesterday already I told you, when exact number of iterations, when exact number of iterations are unknown. Okay, if exact number of iterations are unknown and iteration counter may change dynamically, in that case we can use while loop. Syntactically, how you write, we have while, we have a condition, and we have statements, and after that we have to write counter, then end. That's how we need to define condition and counter. So generally we have to configure in this way: while, condition, and statements. Here, if condition is not satisfied, if condition is not satisfied, then it will not execute statements. Statements will execute only when the condition is satisfied. That is basic. We will put them in examples later. I will give you some examples how to handle them. Small point I will show here. Suppose I am writing a simple script file. So while.html. Okay. Here I am just writing a script, and here we are writing where I is equal to 1, while condition I less than or equal to 10. What we have to do, we have to print document.write I and break. After that we have to increment I plus plus. That means it is going to print the numbers from 1 to 10. That means it will start when the condition is true. It will start executing the statements. After that, it will perform increment, and then it will stop. These kind of options are very important. Actually, later we will put in examples, but when to use them, when we don't know the iterations and iteration counters may change dynamically, in that case we can go with this. For example, suppose here I will give a simple logic here. Let me copy this first. I'll copy this here. I'm just giving here is, so where count is equal to, I'm just giving prompt. I'm asking how many names. So you need to enter the count. How many names, right? So you have to enter the count inside it. But whatever you type in prompt, it will be string. I need to convert into number. So what to do? Parse int. Parse int, we need to keep that value. Okay, after that, now next step, what we have to do is here, we are writing condition. So while, so here we are using the count and initialization where I is equal to 1. That means here the condition is I is while I is equal to, that means y is equal to count. So or you say less than or equal to count. I is how much? So I is 1. If it is less than or equal to count, how many number you have written? Here we have to write, suppose I will put an option. So here we will declare a name. I will just declare some var name. Name is initially empty, nothing inside it. Here we will put name is equal to, we will take a prompt and we will say enter name. Enter name. So and better I will give here plus I value. Enter name and I am giving I value. And after that I want to print it. That means document dot write. I am printing the name. That means just I am printing here whatever name entered, the name entered, and put BR line break. I'm just using it. Temporarily, I'm just giving it. And here, what we are doing, incrementing the value I plus plus. Now see what happens here. In this is, it is asking how many names. I entered 3. Then you can see it says name 1. I entered some name 2, and entered name 3. So name 3. It should get that names and display. That means we can write a simple logic which will first ask how many you want to take. And here we are defining, see how many you want to take. And this will be changing. Sometimes I can ask 2, sometimes I can ask 10. Then it will be changing. It will be changing. And what it will do, it will take all the names. We return in a while loop. That means it will repeat this how many times, how many number you given. You say 4, then 4 times it will repeat. It will repeat 4 times. It will take 4 names and it will store all 4 names in this variable. And it will print those one by one, all the names that you have entered. So just you refresh here, it is asking how many names. Suppose I said 4 names I want. Okay. Then enter name 1. I said some TV. Enter name 2, some mobile. Name 3, some watch. Name 4, some speaker. And it will get that and display. That means we can write a loop in such a way that it can repeat number of times. Once it matches the condition, it will stop. It will stop. It is basically this kind of requirement it is used through while. So later while working with database, you will see when to use this when counter is not standard and counter is changing. Then better you can go with the while loop. You can do it the while loop. I will copy this, just an example for you. Later in so many examples you can implement. I will give you some task. Based on that, you try. See, first, let's see. There is another loop. You can use while or you can use do while. You can use while or do while. So do while is nothing but, so here, so remember, it will enter only when the condition is satisfied. That means, for example, you see now I am entering how many names. Suppose I given 0, then okay, then it will not take anything. I am entering here, so -1, then it will say not take anything. That means when it will enter into loop, only when the condition is matching. What is that condition? Condition is nothing but I value. So must be 1, I is 1. And the count value must be less than or equal to I until this condition is satisfied. If you give count values which are not equal to 1 or they are less than 1, then problem. It will not touch these statements at all. So the statements are executed only when the condition is true. Condition is true. That is, you can define by using while. Actually, we can use the do while. Do while. It is similar to while loop, but but statements are executed at least once, even when the condition is false. Even the condition not satisfied, it will execute the statements at least once. Because if condition is not satisfying, it should not stop. It should tell that you entered some wrong value, please enter this value. Or it should say that I cannot continue because condition is not matching. You cannot leave like empty. You cannot leave empty. Right? So you cannot leave empty. So here I entered, suppose 0. It cannot leave empty. It should show some alternative. That means if the condition is not satisfying, it should show some alternative. Then you can write like this. See, you can write the do loop is similar, same, only small changes. This condition, here we write do. See how to write do. We write do. And in the do, we will put all these statements. That means these statements to be executed. And this while condition, we actually write here. The while condition we actually write here. This is how we write. So generally, when people are learning technologies, they will tell this difference. That means when you ask an ordinary learner, what is difference between while and do while? Then you will see many people at school level, college level, they will give you answer that, sir, while loop condition is checked at the top, do while condition checked at the bottom. That is not difference. Where it checks the condition, I don't care. The point is, what is the purpose of checking the condition at bottom? The purpose of checking condition at bottom is, even when the condition is not satisfied, it will take at least one time, it will run. That means you see now, I am entering here, refresh. How many names? I entered 0. Then you can see it starts. It says enter one name. And I entered a name. Then you can see it takes it. That means sometimes we want them to enter name, but he is not entering, but I cannot take. There must be at least one minimum. That means there must be at least one value. Without that, it should not be. What while condition is doing, if I say 0, then it is not taking any value. No, it should take a value. Even I give 0 or -1, even the condition is not satisfied, one value is mandatory. I can't leave empty. That means we cannot leave the memory empty. At least one value must be there. In such situations, we will use do while. What do while will do, even you try to cancel, ignore, it will ask you to enter 1. That means it will ask you to enter 1. That is the condition here. That means even you if you cancel, that's okay. If you don't cancel, you provided some value, even the value is wrong, it will take one value. Even the value is wrong, it will take one value. That is the advantage of do while. That means do while guarantees that the statement will execute at least once. So we cannot leave empty. Even the condition not satisfying, we want statement to execute. Minimum one value it should take. In that case, don't use while. If I use directly while loop, then it will not continue. Do while, it will continue even when the condition is not matching. Even when the condition matching, it will execute those number of times. Even when the condition is not matching, it will take. It will take. That is the concept of do while. That means, so it can execute. It can execute statements. It can execute statements in all situations. In all situations, condition matching, condition not matching, in all situation, statement will execute. This is very much required in some occasions. So this general example, the same concept I'm giving here by using do while. This is one small concept of how do we work with the loops. What are the loops we have? For while, another one, do while. These are the looping control statement. But what is problem in looping control statements? All looping control statements need condition, initialization, and counter. So better you can go with iteration statements. You can go with iteration statements. Iteration statements, we have two iteration statements. One is for off, another one is for in. Already we learned, no need to explain. What is purpose of for off? It reads all values. For in, it reads all properties. We can read both properties and values also for in. We learned that. No need to give any examples. Already we discussed it. Now, very important is jump statements. This is important. Jump statements, we have three important jump statements. One is break, another return, another one is continue. Break, return, and continue. What is already we used break and return in different stages. In a switch case and everywhere we use it, but I will show you. So break, return, and continue. These are jump statements. Let's see how to handle them. Means where they are used, I will show you here. See. Let's create a simple page, doc type, HTML, head, title, some I given as register. I will put a body section, so with a field set legend as register user, and input type is text. And here I am given here I given a div ID as MSG, and here ID as user name. Okay. Now, when user here, let's see, this is the design. We are creating a registration form. Some user is typing username. User is typing username. I need to verify that username is already taken or not. That means here I will put like this better. I will put here a data list, data term, username, data definition, this text box, and here another data definition. I will give ID as MSG. That is the design we created. Now, when user is entering username, I need to verify that username is already taken or not. That is very common in websites. Suppose I have hundreds of users and a new user is registering. When you give username, that name should not be among the others already taken. It should not be among the others already taken. That means we have to verify. Let's see here. For that, you can use your JSON file. Okay. Let's go to data. In the data, there is users JSON file. There is a users JSON file. I will add some details here. Okay, already users is having username. Okay, password also there, but we don't want password. We have username. Already username is there. Okay, some more users I will add, like I will copy another here. I will keep username John. Okay, John is taken. John NIT is taken. Suppose David is taken, and David underscore 2022 is taken. Already these users are there. Now, what we have to do is, when user is typing the username, while typing, I have to verify. While typing, I have to verify whether that name is already taken or not. And very important, for every character, I should verify, because even one character change, it is available. That means he given David taken, but David one, it is available. That means for every character change, it should verify. So we will write the event here as on key up. We will write on key up. On key up, we will use verify user. Okay. On key up indicates verify for every character. When key up means key is released. When key is released, immediately it will verify. For every key, it will verify. On key up, verify, write a script here, function verify user. Now from where we have to verify, we have to get existing users now. So first we have to collect what username he entered. So we will put var username is equal to document dot get element by id, that is username dot value. That means whatever they entered in text box. Now var msg document dot get element by id msg, because there we want to display message. Now I need to fetch data from JSON file. That means we have to use fetch. Fetch from where? Dot dot slash data slash users dot JSON dot then get function, and it should use response, and here return response dot JSON, and we have to use dot then we have a function. Here we have to collect the data. Data is nothing but it actually users information. Right now, from that users, we have to read every user and verify every username is matching with the username we entered in text box. That means we have to write a for where user of what is the collection users. What we have to do, we have to write if user dot user name is matching with the user name we entered. If user dot username is matching with the username we entered, then msg dot inner html, we have to display that username taken. Try another, try another. This message should come. Else, what should happen if it is not? So msg.inner.html, it should display username available, username available. This message should come. I will put here username taken and I will put font color as red. Here username is available, font color as green. Like this I am giving. Now these are string functions, already we know that. Now this is the message to display. But here one problem is there. The problem is it will verify this username. It will find out that there is no problem. Means that is already taken. What it will do is after that, it will not stop. It will verify second user. It will verify second user, second character, third character. That means it is going to verify another one. That's not good. It should not take like that. That means, so once it sees that already it is taken, now it should stop. If it is not stopping, it will continue this one also. That means even the username is taken, it will say available. Why? Because it is continuing this. It is not stopping after this. After this, it should stop now. In that case, we have to put a break. If we don't put the break, then issues will, for example, I am not using break. And see here, I am typing the username. It says username available. I entered David. It is not saying username taken, but actually David username is taken. That means it entered into this and it sticks there. It will not come out. Once it is, that means actually username taken is displayed. On that again it is showing available. That means after this it should not go to next. It should simply break. It should simply break. That means now here I am typing username. This is available. I entered David, now taken. Username is taken. Now David 1, it is available. David 1, 2, it is available. David is not available. David underscore, that is available. David underscore 2020, this is available. 22 taken. That means that username is already taken. Suppose someone more character you are changing, it is available. 22, it is taken. Suppose I am entering like John, it is available. John is taken. John underscore is available. John underscore NIT is taken. It will verify every character and it will display. If I don't break, then it will continue to the next one. Then always it says available. Means once it matches that condition, then it should stop. It should stop. And when you start again typing, it should check again. It should check again. This is important. Can I use return here? You can use return also, no problem. Then what is difference between return and break? Already we discussed. Break means it will come out of this function but still stays in script. That means your compilation will continue. You can do some other actions and operations. But if I use return, it will work. Return also will work, but it will stop the compile. Means I don't want to do any another work. Just simply stop. In that case, we have to use return. So return will terminate permanently. But in this case, return is not good. Why? Because if user enters one more new character, it should verify again. That means it should not come out of script. It should still stay inside the script. That is good. That means return also will work, no problem. But return will be burden. Why? Because return means it will stop. After stopping, again it has to load the script. That will take time. That means you see here, I am giving return. I am typing here, David, it is available, it is taken. Working same. But problem actually is performance issue will come. Why? Because if I enter another character, now it should load the script again, because return means compilation stopped. Compilation stopped. It should load the script again and it should verify. It will take time. It will take time. That is the problem while working with return and break. So which one to use, you decide. That means you don't want anything. For this kind of situation, better you use a break. You can use break or you can use return. Already what is difference between break and return I explained. Practically I showed you. But this is one simple example to understand. Right? So all are jump statements. What is break? It stops the current block. It stops and exits the current block. It stops and exits the current block. That means it will stay in script. It will stay in script. So return already we know, right? It stops and terminates execution. It quits, or you can say it exists, right? It exists script. It exists the script. That's what actually happens, right? That is break and return. Break and return. Example, I will give you this. First, you have a file. What is it? Users.json. In that users.js data. Actually, we don't need password, but just already it is there. I am using it. Next one is so page. Suppose you say register.html. In register.html, this is the copy. I'll copy this here. This is a simple example to understand how the break works. Next important is we have continue. Continue is nothing but technically what happens is it skips the current counter and continues to next. It skips the current counter and continues to next. That is done by using continue. Skips the current counter and continues to next. What does that means is, see here, I will use another page .html. Here I am using some data script, and where we have some products. Products is an array. In this products array, we have name as TV This belongs to a category called electronics. We have another name called some Nike casuals, and this belongs to the category called footwear. And we have another name, suppose some winter jacket. So this belongs to category called fashion, something like this. And here another name, some mobile, this belongs to the category called electronics. Now what I want here is, so we have a lot of details like this, and I am just using some Lee Cooper boot, and category is this is footwear. Now what I want here, I want to read all category, all products, but wherever fashion comes, ignore. That means I need to read all products except fashion. Then how? We learned filter. In filter also we can do that. We have to use multiple conditions. Here I need to read all products one by one, but when category fashion comes, then skip it. That means don't stop there, just ignore it and continue to next. Then see, for where product of products, we are reading every product. I am writing here, if product dot category is matching with fashion. If product category is matching with fashion, then simply continue. That means what it will do is, it will not consider that loop. It will simply ignore that loop. Continue will skip it. So, and we are printing document dot write. We are printing product dot name plus br, means all product names we are printing. Now you see here, when the category fashion comes, it will automatically skip it. If I use break, what will happen? It will stop at fashion, but it should not stop, it should skip it. Then we use continue. Now you see, it will print only these details. So that means TV, Nike casuals, mobile, Lee Cooper boot. It will skip fashion. Suppose I want to skip footwear. Wherever footwear comes, it will skip. Then it will get only this. I want to skip footwear and fashion, means only electronics I want. Then you can use or. We learned logical or na. So here we can define product dot category. Another category is what? Footwear and fashion. That means it will ignore these two and it will display only mobile and TV. That means what continue will do? Wherever footwear comes, it will skip. Wherever fashion comes, it will skip and go to next. So it will ignore those iterations and continues to the next. Skip the counters. So continue is responsible for it skips the current counter and continues to next. That is what the purpose of continue is. Right? That is the basic example here. A small example how we can continue. You can continue. Just a simple point. We will implement all these in different examples. So not only in JavaScript, later when you are working Angular, React or Node.js, JavaScript based technologies, wherever you have to work with data, filtering, searching, sorting, These concepts are very common. These are very common and these are used in the same way. They are used in the same way. So the statements are very important. These are jump statements. What are the jump statements we are having? So break, return, and continue. Continue. So this is another set of statements. Next important, we have exception handling statements. Exception handling statements. We have exception handling. But actually, while using JavaScript with HTML, exception handling is not much required. Exception handling is required when you are using JavaScript individually. In some other technologies, when you are using JavaScript individually, then it is good. But generally with HTML, not required at all. Why? You will see. Exception handling is not required. We will see that. Actually, why it is not required, but still you have to learn, because you are not learning JavaScript only for HTML. We are learning for back-end technologies, front-end, databases, everywhere. That is the reason exception handling means, I will tell you one point. Actually, in computer programming, developer will come across with two types of errors. So in computer programming, developer will come across with two types of errors. One is we call compile time errors. Compile time errors. Another runtime errors. We have compile time errors, runtime errors. Compile time error means compile time error. Compile time error is syntax error. Syntax errors, keyword errors, and all. So due to this, what happens is due to compile time error, due to compile time error, program is unable to execute. It is unable to execute because there are errors. If there are errors, it is unable to execute. These are compile time errors. Runtime error means error occurs. Runtime error occurs while using application. That means your program successfully compiled. For example, you are using laptop or mobile. When you are using laptop or mobile and you opened it, you started using it, and suddenly it hanged up, stop. That means it is not compile time problem. If it is compile time problem, at the time of loading itself, it should stop. It already loaded successfully. You use it for 10-15 minutes. Suddenly it stopped. This is runtime. This is runtime problem. Runtime problem means compile time problem means mobile you are starting, it is not loading. It's not open starting. That means some manufacture problem, some hardware problem. That means it's not starting at all. But it started, you started using it, few minutes you used it, after that some problem came. That problem is runtime. Then generally what happens when runtime error comes, compiler is unable to understand your instructions. You are giving some instructions, compiler is unable to understand your instructions. Then what it will do is, if compiler is unable to understand the instructions you are giving, it will close the application. That means you are giving some instructions and that application is unable to understand those instructions, then it will close the application. You will see that when you are working with various softwares, suddenly that software closes. Suddenly that software closes. That is because some runtime error occurred. Some runtime error occurred because something you done which is not understandable to compiler, it will close. It will close. You cannot say that I haven't done anything but it closed. That if you haven't done anything, it will not close. Some technical problem may happen internally. You may not done it. Sometimes processor is struck, processor heats up. So lot of memory is being utilized, then it will automatically stops. That means runtime error occurs. Runtime error occurs while using the application. That means some instructions it is unable to understand. When any instruction it is unable to understand, what will happen is, so when runtime error occurs, when runtime error occurs, application will terminate abnormally. Application will terminate abnormally. That means suddenly it stops. It closes. It closes abnormally. Have you faced this any time while working with script and HTML any day? You written some wrong program and suddenly everything closed. Anytime you face that type of problem, it will show error. Red mark in the console, it will show error. But anytime it closed, it will, you haven't experienced any time that it closes everything. Nothing happened. Then generally, exception handling is required to avoid abnormal termination. That means application terminates abnormally. To avoid abnormal termination, we need exception handling. Have you ever faced abnormal termination while using JavaScript in HTML? Then why you need exception handling? Right? Some technologies compulsory require, but JavaScript not required every time. I will tell you, see, I will show you the problem also. Suppose I am writing here, suppose var x equal to 10, var y equal to 2. So here var z is equal to y divided by y. And document dot write, so z is equal to whatever z value is. Now you can see it returns the result 5. Now I am giving divide by 0. As per mathematical references, you cannot divide anything by 0. Is it a compile time problem? It is not compile time problem because 10 is number, 0 is also number, that's okay. The runtime, compile time, no problem. There is no error in this, but runtime, it cannot do this. It cannot do division because automatically you cannot divide anything by 0. But 0 also number, 10 also number only. So compile time, no problem. And this is problem. That means at a runtime, it is unable to do that division. Then if it is Java, .NET or some other technologies, they will close the program. They will close your application. They will say that illegal operation, I can't do this. It closes suddenly. But see, in JavaScript, even it cannot do it, it will not close, it will say infinity. So there is no abnormal termination, then why you need? That means you don't need exception handling in JavaScript, especially while working with HTML every time. If you are using JavaScript independently for building some other applications and their JavaScript need to be compiled separately, their abnormal termination happens, then we should use exception. Here, better use error handling rather than using exception handling, because even it don't have the capacity to catch the problem. Exception handling is there in HTML, JavaScript with HTML, but it cannot even track the problem. For example, how the exception handling statements are written. So exception handling statements, statements are defined by using try, catch, throw, and finally. Throw and finally. It is done by using this try, catch, throw, finally. Actually, try is called, it is the monitoring block. Try is called monitoring block. Monitoring block means it contains the statements to execute. It contains the statements to execute. That means what statements to execute? These statements to execute, we have to keep all these statements to execute. You have to keep these statements in try. That means try contains all the statements to execute. These statements it will execute one by one. Now catch is, it is the handler block. It is the handler block. That means it will catch the exception. It will catch the exception. It will catch the exception if any statement fails to execute. If any statement fails to execute in try block, it will problem. Which statement failed? It will catch. That means now try needs a catch. What catch will do is it will catch the problem and it will store in the parameter. That means it will execute line 1, no problem. It will execute line 2, no problem. It will execute line 3, no problem. That problem it will store here. That means the problem, what problem? That will store here. That problem we can print document.write. We can print what is the problem. That means exception. What is the exception? What is the problem? But unfortunately, in HTML, it is not a problem. It shows infinity, na? It is not a problem. So it is unable to catch the problem. That means you see in HTML, it is unable to catch the problem. If it is unable to catch the problem, what we have to do is, as a developer, we have to throw the problem. Manually, we have to throw. That means throw, it defines the problem. It defines the exception. It defines the exception. It defines the exception to throw. That means if exception is not thrown by program, you have to throw an exception. That means here it is not throwing exception. If it is not throwing exception, I will write here throw. Throw. What to throw? So when to throw, what to throw? Here I have to write. That means I will simply put here if y is equal to 0, because you cannot divide anything by y. If y is equal to 0, then throw. Throw what message? Throw that divide by zero error. That means you cannot divide by 0. This message we prepared. Actually, in other technologies, it will prepare. If it is Java, .NET, C++, or other programming languages, it will prepare this message saying that you can't divide by 0. Divide by 0 exception. It will display. Here it is not showing. We have to throw. We have to throw the message. Now, when I throw the message, you can see it can catch and it can display. What is use? Time waste. We don't need to do that. Why to write try, catch, throw, and all this? Just put one if condition. Put an if condition and write it. Why to write in try, throw, catch? Not required. That is the reason exception handling is not a great practice with HTML every time. That is the reason you will not see anywhere much exception handling written in web pages. But exception handling is very, very important. When we are using this language individually, but for building large scale applications independently, in that case, it will have problem. It will lead to abnormal termination. In that case, we have to use it. Every problem we have to throw like this. So, okay, this is 0. Suppose if they entered, suppose number 12, 12 divided by 10, I should not allow. That means I should not allow a larger number to divide, smaller number only to divide. It's okay, it can divide. It can divide and it can give decimals, fractions it can give. But I don't want to divide. In that case, for this again condition I am writing. What is the condition? If y is greater than x. If y is greater than x, then it should throw another message saying that, so too big. So here I will give some like number too big. That means, so here I will put a message, please don't use a larger number. Okay. You can put any message you want. Number is too big, don't use a larger number than X. So that message I am just giving for a developer. That means in that case, now it will not do the division. It will show another message. If you are dividing with 0, then it will throw one exception. It will catch it. If you are doing the correct one, then it is okay. It is returning the result. If it is having problem in that, suppose it is 12, then it says it is too big. For this, you don't need exception handling. Without exception handling also, you can manage. But exception handling is used for handling this kind of situation. That means try contains statements to execute. And catch will catch the problem if any statement fails to execute. Throw will throw the exception if it is unable to throw the exception by itself. If it is unable to throw the exception by itself, then we have to manually throw. And finally is nothing but finally contains the statement to execute always. That means condition matching, condition not matching. If you want some statement to execute always, then we have to write it final. Generally, we use this for cleaning up memory, because after execution, before execution, memory is allocated. After execution, some failure, then memory allocated must be destroyed. Success, after success also, memory allocation must be destroyed. So I want some actions to be performed every time, even the condition matching or not matching. In that case, we have to define in final. Finally, that means here we will say here document dot write. I will say program end. Suppose I given like this. So or memory cleaned. This message I am giving, right? So memory clean, program end. I will keep that. After this, here I will put a BR line break. Here after this, I will put a BR because it is going to execute every time. then you can see it is showing that program end. And if condition matching, suppose we are dividing by 4, if condition matching, then it will perform. What is it here? Y is greater than Z I given. Y is greater than X. Okay, fine. Now it is going to do that and return that. Always program execution. That means I given 14, then it will give it is too big, right? So if it is suppose less than that, that is 5, then it is able to handle it and it will show. But this is always done. Finally, executes every time, even the condition matching, not matching, every time it will do. So this is a simple concept of exception handling. So throw and one more option. What is it? Final. That means it comprises of statements to execute always. So technically, syntactically, we write like this: try, statements, catch, the exception, and we have to define that, and finally, and we need to configure. Here we have to print the exception, log that exception. You know what is meant by log: display, show the message. This is one small basic point here, right? How to use. But remember, this is not always required while working with HTML, because we don't throw exceptions. For client, we just show message. If you throw exception, that is not good, because how user understand exceptions? User cannot understand any exception. That means, so a person who is using websites, internet, they can't understand your technical words, right? That means people don't know English, but they use all websites in English majority, right? But they can understand few things, that okay, here I need to enter this, here I need to enter that. So maximum, even an illiterate who don't know anything, so he is also using internet on mobile, right? That is great, that is good. That means our websites are so friendly that they can easily understand, even they don't know that language, they can understand. That means they will see red means okay, some problem occurred, green okay means continue. That is the reason web designers should not show technical things on screen that nobody can understand. Even an illiterate or literate, that means who is very good professional, so he can't understand your exceptions. Sometimes you see ticket booking websites and all, when it is very busy, right? So new movie released, it's very busy, and you are trying to book tickets, they show one message, they will say that null exception error. Actually, null exception error means there are 0 tickets found. That means no value is coming. Who will understand that? That is not good. That means that website which is showing that null exception is not good website. That is not good website. Bad coding. You can't complain, because people who develop, it's not mandatory that always they have to follow standards. Several websites are below standards, average. Even they may be developed by big people, maintained by big people. You see, even Indian government websites have problems sometimes, right? You can't complain, because that is that is not maintained as per the standard. If it is maintained as per the standard, it is complainable, because some websites, they take service charge from you. If such websites are not providing correct performance, you can put case on them, because they collect tax from you, right? In such websites, you can even put a case on them. That is the reason our foreign clients are very concerned, because in India we don't have an habit that, so suppose a movie ticket booking website is not working for 5 minutes, you will wait, after 5 minutes you will try. you will not have any complaint on that. But sometimes in various other countries, service oriented, if it is not working, immediately they report on it. They will not compromise. They will immediately report. They file a case on it, and it should be blocked. That is the reason our majority projects are foreign projects. Means you are Indian developer, but majority 80-90% all our projects are foreign projects. Then we should be very careful, because they are concerned about service oriented. So you may not have an habit of that, but you should develop in that way. So don't technical messages which are not understandable to general people. Put it in a plain way, saying that you can't type this. Don't put any technical words. That is the reason divide by zero error, all these are not great. Just say don't divide by zero. Don't use zero. Use anything between this and this. That is good, right? So exception handling is very good and very important in computer programming, but especially with JavaScript HTML combination, not required every time. It is required later when you are individually using it, right? This is exception handling statements. These are all the statements you have learned. What is the summary? The statements what we discussed. So in the summary, we learned about selection statements. We learned about looping statements. We learned about iteration statements, jump statements, and exception handling statements. These are all the various types of statements. Next, very important concept in JavaScript, you need to know about functions. And after functions, we will see OOPS, object-oriented programming, to know functions detail. That we'll see next session. Tomorrow, we will see that. Once we started OOPS and functions, these are very major. 80 to 90% all your interviews for full stack development happens in this area only. Functions and OOPS. You need to be very strong. Practically, you will be better. You will practice all designs, but theoretically, topic back interviews, two topics are important for interviews for every UI developer. That is functions and OOP concepts. If you are perfect in that, you can 50 to 60% of your interview you can crack, because all questions will be around these topics only. These are very, very important. That we will start tomorrow. Functions, OOP concepts, how to handle them. Okay, right.